The Finals is one of the latest FPS games and it's honestly a banger game. It's been getting a lot of traction and becoming really popular, and in a sea of FPS games, it's been standing out pretty well. So what has it got going for it? Valorant, Counter-Strike, Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, all of these are 5v5 shooters. However, the Finals is 3v3v3. V3, sometimes. Depending on your game mode, you'll either be playing against 2 or 3 other teams. It's a nice spot between battle royales and your average team on an FPS game. Maybe I missed out on a game that does this, but I've literally never seen this type of team making before, at least not that I can remember. And if I have, it has been in a game that I've hardly played. And why does this team making work so well? Well, these smaller teams mean that everyone can play an important role, but if you're having a bad game, there are still 2 other people who can carry, so it's not a guaranteed loss. The extra team or 2 adds a lot of variables to the game. If you're in a big fight, you need to decide what the best decision is and who you should focus on. And while it does suck to get third party, the teams are so small that even if you do get third parties, you have a pretty good chance of making it out on top. Alternatively, you can third party other teams, which is pretty fun. To be honest, I do prefer the 3 teams over 4, but both ways are pretty good. Something else that I really like is how there are different classes, but it's not definitive at all. Regardless of the class you pick, you don't get extremely confined to a specific playstyle. Like Valorant has very clear roles. If you pick the controller, you better be the one smoking off the chokes, but in the Finals, these roles aren't anywhere near as clear cut. For the record, I don't think that one of these ways is better than the other, but considering I mostly play character-based shooters with like definitive roles, it is a nice change for me. Some popular gameplay loops for shooters are plant or defuse the bomb, capture the point, or last player or team standing. The Finals has a pretty cool gameplay loop. For the part where you're transporting the vault, if your teammate's carrying it, it's kind of like your Protect the President game mode. If you're carrying it, it's more like a survival horror game. That is, if you're like me and just like make a run for the cash and hope that your teammates will keep you safe and that you'll just movement diff them. If you're gonna drop the vault to shoot every so often, it's probably more like a payload game mode. Then there's the caching, which honestly is pretty similar to the planting or defusing bomb scenario. You do a thing, or you will do someone else's thing, but stealing a cash out and then having to defend it, maybe multiple times, does extend that gameplay loop more than just defusing the bomb, especially when there's multiple teams to take care of. They say that nothing truly original can be made because everything has already been done. Whether we know it or not, a lot of things we make are influenced by external factors. The thing is, that's not always a bad thing. As far as I'm concerned, it's actually pretty good to be exposed to a lot of different things that might inspire you. As long as it's not like straight up plagiarism anyway. But I don't want to get into a rabbit hole about artistic integrity and the line between inspired and copied, so let's just talk about how the Finals, unintentionally or not, has a lot of similarities with other games. First things first, it is a class-based shooter, which is something that has been done a million times over. And while the gameplay is not as dependent on the character you pick as say Valorant or Overwatch, things like different health pools, speed and specialities will impact your gameplay even if it might be in a minimal way. And of course, the breakable environment isn't something original. In Rainbow Six Siege, you can tear that environment to shreds. The Finals does this on a pretty different scale, but it's still the same idea, and clearly it works. These other games I mentioned are successful for a reason, and as far as I'm concerned, it is pretty cool to see these ideas that have already been done have a bit of a spin put on them, and they're used to help make a pretty unique game. Something else that the Finals does that is pretty cool is mid-game events. There are 7 of these as of writing this, and as of right now, my favourite is the Dead Go Boom, which makes dead bodies blow up. So it's basically Junkrat's passive from Overwatch. The other ones are Mega Damage, which increases damage done to players and the surrounding environment, Meteor Shower, which is exactly what it says on the tin, Deathmatch, which will give you more money when you eliminate an enemy, Orbital Lasers. If you stand too still in these, you will get shot from the sky. Does 100 damage, kind of like a Brimstone ult. Then there's Alien Invasion, which will bring in a UFO. I'll go all around the map and fire lasers, use a tractor beam, although I haven't actually seen this one yet, so I'm really excited to see it. And then Low Gravity, which again does exactly what it says in the tin. It decreases the gravity for everyone, the players and also the in-game objects. It's a really nice addition that makes the gameplay much more unpredictable, much less boring, and it's also going to be a really good way for the developers to add more content in the future. The whole futuristic aesthetic of this game is just so cool. Like the menu is just so sleek, so clean. I think it's really awesome. And then the whole theme of just like winning money along with the commentary is super fun. It's also got a bit of a like dystopian thing going on. I know that the arena is a simulation, but still the idea that you're going into a simulation to kill other people to get money, it's dystopian as fuck. I kind of love it. By that, of course, I mean I love the idea and not like it actually existed. I would hate if it actually existed, but the idea, super awesome. The commentators are not only a really good aesthetic choice, but they're also super helpful for getting information on how your team and the other teams are doing. If they call out that you're the last player standing, you might have to adjust your playstyle because you might not have noticed your teammates dying. Or if they call out that another team has been wiped or has one player left standing, it's really, really helpful. This game is pretty obviously built for esports, and I can't wait to see an esports league started for it. It's going to be so much fun to watch. It's always really nice to watch skillful players who know the game well. Hopefully they're better than that though. Obviously this game isn't everyone's cup of tea, no game is, but I think it does something very different from other popular shooters nowadays and is really going to shake up the FPS scene. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go jump real high.